lecturer who used to teach me when I was still a university student. And he used to accuse us in class of late coming. And sometimes he will push it too hard. May his soul rest in peace, he's no more. Now, we told him, but we were in class yesterday and you were not there in time. He said, no, when you see my briefcase on the desk, I am there. Then we said, okay, it's fine. The next day we put our school bags on the desks. Then we went to the sunshine because it was winter. And then he came with his usual accusation of us coming late. Then we said, but we were there. Because when our school bags are on the desk, we are there. Now, you know, I don't want to use this against us for the night yesterday. I don't blame yesterday. Yesterday it was a normal day like any other day. So, but we just hope more others are still going to come and join us. We know some are still packing their stuff because they have to return whatever so that they can bring their bags with them. After this, they don't have to go back. They have to check out. After this, they don't have to go to check out. They must leave to their lovely homes. I almost wanted to say, let us pray, but I know you prayed, so I won't ask. I was bewitched where I'm working, you know, because that is my strongest area. So, but I know you prayed, so I won't call you to pray. But I almost said that. I was so moved to start thinking about languages, African languages in particular. I am a Tsonga speaking, but I was moved the day, some of you will remember, the day when our parliament was very vibrant before the lockdown, 2017, 2018. A certain Mr. Emmanuel Mutileni, who was by then one of the MPs, I won't name the party. He was raising a hand when vibrancy was taking place in the parliament. And the speaker was still Ubaleka Mbete. And he was saying this, Manana speakera, ndikombela kumindilanguta na mina ntavula. Those, do you have those who remember this scene? Yeah. Now, what he was saying, Madam Speaker, I'm asking that you also look at me and point me so that I can speak. So, but he was using a Tsonga language. Then the week after that meeting, his saying in Tsonga did not only become a joke in social media, but it also became a very kind of a mockery statement which took some weeks and months, while some of the local people were even asking, what kind of language is that one that was spoken in the parliament? Some were saying, do these people belong to this part of the country, those who were speaking that language? So I remember one colleague of mine, I'm not good in remembering names, but I remember people. One colleague of mine even came to me saying, but you guys, your language doesn't belong to South Africa. I said, who qualifies it and who disqualifies it? From then I started being moved to want to start writing, because I have been writing by then, but I wanted to start writing and publish in Xitsonga. Although I am not in linguistics, I am just simply a theologian. But I said to myself, it's a shift I have to make because it's worthwhile. And I was happy when I started publishing some articles in Xitsonga, not only in local journals, but internationally. And I felt I'm doing the right thing because this language must also be understood as one of the languages in South Africa. While connecting this story with a well-known writer, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who was detained in Kenya in 1978, not for bombing or killing anyone, but for simply questioning when will his language Gikuyu be used in educational system, where he even went to take one of his novels and they put it into some of the plays called Ngahlika Ndeda, but he was detained for those kind of things, not because he killed anyone. So I'm trying to show you the brutality that sometimes our languages have faced. Go to places or countries like Brazil. Those who have ever traveled there, you will agree with me that if you are not able to speak Portuguese, you might even sleep in an empty stomach with all your money in your pocket, because they don't compromise to talk to you, to tell you the price in your English. They don't even compromise to speak in English. Go to Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, then you will experience what I'm telling you. You cannot simply converse there, because when coming to issue of language, for them it's culture. I don't know how we are doing it here. I was lucky in August 2016 to visit Trinidad and Tobago, and it was the times when they are doing the emancipation of their country. They close streets. There's no movement when they are doing those things. The vehicles of the government, they close the streets, then they start celebrating black emancipation or linguistic emancipation, whatever they call, and we could not move for 2 days. But with us, I don't know. Okay, allow me to say, this is just telling me that ngwana loyi angariliki ufela adzobyeni. Literally, for you to understand, the child who doesn't cry when being carried by the mother at the back will die there. And why we are here, it's because we are trying to voice out that cry, to say we are available. We need our languages to be known, to be heard, to be used in all the forums, from educational forum and everywhere. That is what we are crying for. But if we don't cry, we will die at the back of our mothers. Okay, I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to give any kind of speech. There are those who are going to do that for us today. It is a journey that we tried to embark on, and we are not trying, we are doing it. We want these languages to carry on. But let me tell you one last thing before I call the one who is going to open officially. It is not going to be an easy journey, and it will not be an easy journey. Resistance, fight back will be there. But I just always take my own refuge in this one ancestral saying that was left for me by our forefathers and our foremothers, when they said, it does not matter how scorching the sun can be, it cannot rub the stripes of a zebra. By these words, allow me to welcome Prof. Madonsela to come and do the official opening for our session today. Can you join me as we receive him?
Thank you, Chair Professor Baloyi. I know we are pressed for time. I would just say I'm greeting you in a vertical order of preference. Ladies and gentlemen, as we commence with the last day of the conference, and after yesterday's festivities that saw the signing, or a historic moment of the signing of the MOU between ourselves as a university and the SAPC Limpopo Combo, which actually signals, the realization of the ideal of promoting African languages. It is a great honor then for me to be ushering you to today's proceedings. However, I'm taken aback from the opening day of the conference, which provided lucidity on the dialogue concerning the prominence of taking indigenous languages from the periphery to the center stage. In responding to the theme of the conference periphery, the theme of the conference, development, promotion, and preservation of African languages, through art, culture, heritage, sports, and music, it became apparent that indigenous languages reflect a rich tapestry of cultures which by definition, particularly in the contemporary times, strongly suggest that intercultural communication should be one of the central pillars of the development of these languages. As much as there are, and still a lot to be done in an endeavor to promote and preserve our languages, the likelihood that this attempt might succeed is enhanced when we assess the variety of conditions that ought to exist to sustain the growth of our languages in comparison to the magnitude of the challenges envisaged. The picture that has been painted throughout suggests that African languages can be developed and promoted through music across the different genres, a trend that seems to be leaning towards this objective. Notwithstanding the promotion of the same through music, there exists the need to leverage advances in human language technology. The claiming of Africa's intellectual futures will be reliant on the concerted effort aimed at addressing the challenges facing the development of African languages. It emerged as well that the low digital visibility of our languages in the digital space presents a risk that may influence the reversal of the gains that may have been made thus far. So technology, it emerged again that it's now a pervasive and indispensable element in our daily lives. The profound impact of our computer technology on social and economic development is a dominant feature of contemporary life. It's bound to be one again of the key drivers of the 4IR. In seeking to recenter then in the active national consciousness, we should heed the lessons learned in other countries. For example, in Wales, the efforts to revitalize the Welsh language have been successful. Similarly, in Belgium, with Flemish, in Israel with Hebrew, and in Ireland with Gaelic. These languages have been introduced into higher education institutions as medium of instruction and learning with increasing success rate. The contribution of library information science in indigenous languages and the development of global communities through cultural heritage has not been left behind as another factor that needs to be reflected upon. We are mindful, therefore, that we represent the School of Arts as we are here, even those colleagues who are coming from other universities, in its unity as well as in its diversity. While we are habituated in our own individual spaces, we work locally, but must think globally, and cannot overlook the overwhelming productivity of academic and scientific communication in the world consumed by digitization and digitalization on the other hand. This is one of the challenges that we must compete with if we are intending to be part of the new development and claim our space in the relevant yet exciting market. We then need to take the lead if we want to succeed, and we also need new alliances that we'll have to work with. I said I'm mindful of the time factor. I don't even want to give that as a mini keynote without making this again an opening remarks, a peek boat of the keynote, we focus on today's talks, albeit the preceding days, astute of thought-provoking discussions which talks bestreading languages, linguistics, literature, and film, media, and communication, slightly deviating a bit from yesterday's coverage, which touched on literacy and culture over and above the former. Ladies and gentlemen, as much as I do not want to deviate from today's proceedings, I just want to indicate today's talks that seem stirring perceptive, ranging from the measures that the contemporary deviations in the languages that we are actually working towards limit or even detract from the rights provided by human rights instruments in the language space. The communication dynamics and the practices of distinct languages, communities, and personal, even idiosyncratic usages, which emphasize the highly individual nature of language, including but not limited to the effects of different styles and linguistic choices. I would like to then welcome you all with the words of the UN chief who said, I quote, preserve, revitalize, and promote indigenous languages, or lose a wealth of traditional knowledge. That is Antonio Guterres. So I'm quite sure, colleagues, as I'm actually welcoming you to this session, that it will provide us with many additional new ideas and insights that are interesting in the three themes that I have actually indicated. I have actually decided, deliberately so, to cut out the other aspects of these opening remarks, solely because I do not want to be called after this to order by my boss. Thank you very much and have a nice day today.
Thank you so much, our Honorable Professor Madonsela, for the very, very warm welcome that you gave us. I think it refreshes everyone. I want to ask something that is it's not usual, but it's good. We do not always do things that are usual, but when they are good, we do them. Can we stand up a bit, all of us? Can we stretch like this? Can we go up, down, again, again? We can be seated. Okay, since we are behind time, I am going to call our speaker right now for this morning, and let me let you know who the speaker is for this morning. At least you exercise, so if you sleep, it's no longer about the speaker, it's about yourself. Our speaker today, who can it be if it is not an independent artist, an art historian, curator, and art writer for various online publications. He is also an independent artist, art historian. He works at William Humphreys Art Gallery in Kimberley as a chief curator. He is a founder and creative director of Samantole Institute of Creative Arts, a community-based art organization established in 2010, focusing on arts and literacy youth programs. He is a multi-award-winning visual artist who has exhibited in 3 continents of Africa, Europe, and North America, in solo and group exhibitions, including art affairs. He His work is collected by various corporations, including JP Morgan Chase, Smithsonian African Modern Art Museum, SA Embassy in USA and Washington Printmakers Gallery, among other collections. His inaugural theater production was Men Alone, staged in Polokwane, Limpopo Province, and premiered at the Market Theatre in October 2019. He is the chief patron and founding director of Kehla Chipape Mokgato Youth Libraries in rural schools in Limpopo. He is the recipient of the 2022 Sustainability and Arts Prize by Guth Institute and Mail and Guardian. He has a Master of Arts in Fine Art from University of Wits. He is a PhD candidate in art and music at UNISA. Who can that be if it is not Mr. Chipape Mokgato? Ladies and gentlemen, join me in receiving Mr. Chipape Mokgato on the stage to give us a keynote address. Sorry, those who know things that I don't know myself, can they help us? Those who are not like me, help us with plugging this thing for him so that he can show us what he will be talking about. Is it fine? It will be fine. Please just be near so that you can help us.
Tobela. Kinna Chipape Mokgato. Kinna Samantolata u miro wa matlamatala wa matlamashu a siena ki miro wa letsenela. Ke motho a pitsa holo ya wa piela maleshilana. Kinna setolo sa soka leholo ba re ramatlhodi wa shikashikana lo wa setope kuduto topatantane wa topatantane ya ho isha ga bo motshela ba go fa mosadi solanka pela ba ga magamata boya kgatla itloga itswela e betola masogana ke nna setogolo sa mmapitsa ga apare gokong wa apara seshane sa ga digale Kinna tapalatlo ihwa esungwa moshate naka ke swara tateledi naka ya morago mothabeng golla tsushi walla tateledi walla mothabo ka mphela kinna le boila mmapatane le senang bobotse bja ngaka tša marumo ka o rialo ke kgopela go tšhaba baditi it's a great honor to be here today, and over the days I've learned that you can have another way of greeting people. Instead of saying ladies and gentlemen, Professor Mpo Ngwepe taught me that I can say colleagues and cousins. So as a good student, I'm taking that and I'm going away with it, and I promise that I will always acknowledge where I got it from. Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you so much, respective leaders of the department or the faculty. Ke a leboga ge le kgonne go mmema gore ke tle ke abelane le lena ka tša mošomo wa ka o ko dirang e lego ka lefapheng la botaki. Ke tlo bolela ka the title that I promised is Titles Reclaim Power of African Indigenous Languages in the Works of Art. This presentation is going to look at the phenomena of artists titling their works, which is painting or drawings or other art medium in their mother tongue or simply their indigenous African languages. Though it is very rare to find artworks named or titled in African languages, which is not to say that they do not exist, such artworks. Over a period of a decade, as an artist and arts writer, titles of artworks in African indigenous languages always fascinated me. Few artists and their works have been looked at as part of this presentation to talk about how artists also play a role in promoting African indigenous languages. The works that graces white walls of commercial art galleries and art museums titled in indigenous African languages makes a spectacular observation, at least for me. And sometimes you find that these titles are rooted and nuanced with African proverbs, richly embellished with texture and ambiguities. This presentation today will look at few artists, prominent artists, such as Me, Mahabu, Manghato, Mapula, Helen Sibidi, as well as Nelson Makamo, Nicholas Klobo, and Philemon Tlongwane. Before I do that, before we look at those works that I've selected or curated for this presentation, I would like to also share my thoughts on this subject. And also sort of create a guide as to how to look at works of art. But I think for a teaser, how many of you have been to an art gallery or museum in the past month? Just by show of hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 people in this room have been to the museum or gallery in the past month. As an artist, I'm a little bit disappointed, but I trust that from this presentation, at least 40 of you will go to an art gallery in the next month. Artists use different mediums to communicate their message. And others prefer to use drawing, printmaking, sculpture, video installation, land art, painting, ceramics, glass, among other mediums to communicate such messages. But the question that might come to mind would be, what purpose an artwork serves? The answer to this question could be very personal, because people relate differently to work of art. And another question could be, but how can one read a work of art? In this case, not music, but paintings or artworks. One of the guys that I look up to, Eddie Chambers, who is an arts critic, he once observed that, and I quote, "At any one time, hundreds and thousands of people across the country would regard themselves as artists. If we look further afield, there are literally millions of people across the world who would regard themselves as artists and aspire to have their work bought for collections, exhibited in important galleries, written about in adulatory terms in journals, and inscribed in the canon of art history. But the world only recognizes a few artists at a time. The favored few achieve varied degrees of celebrity status, while the majority of artists struggle, often in vain, to achieve such visibility. Being here for the past 4 days, I had observed that academia is another platform that can collaborate with practicing artists in making sure that they collaborate and studies or researches are made on our artists, and that would contribute in preserving the heritage and the work that the artists are doing as custodians of our heritage and culture. And also, I observed also that being acutely conscious about one's heritage and language leads to an awareness of the ways in which certain heritage is absent from the dominant heritage narratives. And the widespread of lack of African indigenous languages in titles of artworks is symptomatic to a wider invisibilizing of African languages from African history, society, and identity. And this will be explained in later slides. So one asks oneself, what are these mediums that I talk about? We have various types of art mediums. We have drawing as a medium, and under it we have charcoal, the tools within the drawing, charcoal, we have graphite, we have soluble water-based block that when you use it, it also acts as a watercolor. And we have a medium called painting. Within painting, we have acrylic, which is water-based. We have oil, and we have watercolor. And we have another medium called printmaking, which is where I come from. I'm coming from a printmaking background. So within printmaking, there are techniques and processes. And when you look at the work on my left, it's monotype. Monotype is another technique that belongs to the printmaking. And we have intaglio, we have relief, we have lithograph, we have silkscreen, which most of you can be familiar with because the T-shirts that we see being printed, they were printed using a technique called silkscreen. But with advancement of technology, now there are many techniques that they use, but all those techniques that are new, they emanate or emerge from silkscreening. And we have sculpture, which could be stone, which could be wood, which could be clay, bronze, and copper. We We have glass, we have video installation, we have graffiti, we have land art, we have ceramics, we have pottery, and we have photography. This is a guide, or this can serve as a guide on how to read an artwork. And it is not a dictation. Artwork can be read whichever way. But for someone who's going to interact with work of art, a painting for the first time, these are some of the basics that can help navigate your way easily. So reading an artwork is similar to reading a book, because the reader decodes symbols or objects to establish meaning. A reader's previous knowledge and experience affects their personal response to the artwork that they will be reading or they will be engaging on. One African art philosopher, the late Dan Rahwate, who was very prominent in printmaking, once said that when you are looking at an artwork, you must understand that you should wait until that piece makes you speak or react. Look at it, find voice, find something that will make you respond to the artwork. But he also advised that every interpretation of that artwork from the viewer is valid, even though the artist never intended that meaning of interpretation when they created it. Meaning a work of art can be interpreted in an infinite ways that are still valid. So as your understanding grows in reading art, the subject comes to life in your imagination as a reader, in a way that reaches beyond the actual artwork, the actual format, or the actual frame. However, there are two important differences between reading a book and a painting. With a book, you have to imagine the scene. Whereas with a painting, it is created for us like a film. But the only difference is that with film and book, it's different from the work of art. Artist has one frame through which to communicate that message. So it's not like you will have to look at another frame, unless in case of artworks that we call diptych, which is two artworks that are telling one story, or triptych, which are three panels that tell one story. So the following are the works that I looked at to try to highlight the fact that artists play an important role in promoting their languages. This piece is by Memahabu Mapula Manghato Helen Sibidi. I'm very deliberate in including or making inclusion of all her names, because to me they are very important names. They prefix with ma, which is mother. And it's true that she's our mother. She turned 84 this year, and she had mentored many of us. She continues to do that. But the title of the work is called Pitso Yabadimo. I once had a conversation with her about how her artworks are titled. And she said to me, titles do come to you. They can come to you in Setswana or English. It just depends on the specific occasion of creating that artwork. So you can see the piece is called Pitso ya Badimo, which loosely translates ancestral calling. And it falls under the medium called printmaking because it's a monotype, and it was done in 2005. You look at the art, the next artwork is called Moma Haing Kimatata, which the gallery that represents her translated it to mean at home is difficult. And colleagues and cousins in the linguistics can already depict something wrong with the translation. And this is not to paint me well, to say I could have done it better, but I deliberately chose this title and not work on the translation so that I can highlight how meaning gets lost in the passage of translation. Another artist whom I admire, who uses isiXhosa to title his works, is Nicholas Hlobo. And here he did this work. This work is on canvas, and he used wool and ribbons to weave it and create an image. It's called Injongo, which I suppose my brother there will not strangle me for pronouncing it in a wrong way. So Injongo, it means the purpose. And this one, I'm going to apologize to butcher it, but I suppose after this conference, I'm going to try to take a course in linguistics so that I get to understand the semantics and nuances of pronouncing words in indigenous languages, because I respect them. It's called Intlambo, and the last part you would read for yourself because I don't want to make a mistake. But the translation is called The Value of Joy. And you have another artist called Nelson Makamo, whose work many of you may be familiar with. In 2019 or 18, he was, his work made it to the cover of Times magazine. And it really put us, his contemporaries, on an international map. And we are very happy and proud of the waves that he's making outside South Africa. And this particular piece is called Muriti Waka, which could be translated to mean my shadow. But what is interesting about the shadow in Sepedi is that there are many ways of looking at Muriti. Muriti could mean your shadow, but Siriti could mean dignity. And the musicality of languages in really playing around with words of our languages fascinate me, and something that I would like to do research on. But this reminds me of one of the greatest photographers of South Africa called Santu Mofokeng, who did a body of work called Chasing Shadows, where he explained the concept of shadow in contrast to the concept of dignity. And it makes a very wonderful reading. You should check his work out. The Chasing Shadow is a book that he wrote that speaks to that body of work dealing with shadow. Another man that I like is Philemon Hlongwane. I've never seen his artwork being titled in English. He's very committed in promoting his language, using his art. And this particular piece is called Miloro ya mina hi hunzuka ntiso. Prof, I hope I pronounced that correctly. So, which translates, dreams are becoming real. And he did this particular piece in 2020. And when reading the work, something that I missed to highlight. When you go to a gallery and you see an artwork, you will have also a tag or a caption or a card next to it. It will have the title of the work, it will have the medium of the work, and it will have the size of the work. It will also have the year that work was created. And in this case, charcoal is the black parts that you see on the artwork, and pastel is the colorful or the colored parts of the work. I chose also this work because it speaks of a significant historical moment in the world, the COVID-19. So I'm not going to attempt to read the title in Xitsonga, but my fascination with this particular piece is that you could see our mothers in the image wearing masks, and he used mask as a symbol or metaphor for a point in time in history, which when this work is looked at maybe 40 years down the line, it will then capture the essence of what was happening then. My colleague Shoma Josie on Monday spoke about us promoting ourselves. And I think I could relate. And I would like to also share my own work with you so that you have an idea of what kind of work I do. And these are recent works that I titled them in Sepedi. I was working towards an exhibition that was supposed to be exhibited at the Northwest Gallery at Potchefstroom campus. But due to unforeseeable circumstances or unforeseen circumstances, we had to postpone that exhibition. But the title of it was called Papushi Abatubaso. In this body of work, I was looking at or imagining what kind of house I would imagine to live in as a black person. And my imagination is that I would like a house that has a lot of musical instruments, that has a lot of artworks, that has a lot of books. So the title of the work there is called Ulechecha Mawe Garepa, which loosely translates, or which translates to mean he's playing a harp for her mom or her mother. Another one is called Lokela Koshana Letsohong Laka, which loosely translates, puts a song in my hand, or in my hands. So this one is called mixed media, or acrylic and textile on canvas, because I used textile and painting. This one is called Ma Obala Khatishobaka. Mom is reading newspaper. So, before I conclude, I would like to share just one other story where artists play a role, especially painters or visual storytellers, play a role in reclaiming our heritage and bringing forth some of the erased history. Some time ago, in 2016, I was reading a book called The Realm of the Rain Queen, which talks about the history of the Mojaji of a Palabora kingdom. And as I was reading about the first Rain Queen, I came across Queen Mantatisi, who was the leader of the Batlokwa people back in 1800. And she led the Batlokwa people for 10 years, between 1813 and 1824. That figure fascinated me so much that I made inclusion of how I imagined she would have looked like, because we don't have a picture of her. But the role that she played in the political sphere of that time was very crucial, because she was one of those active politicians of that time of King Dingane and King Mushweshwe. So my gripe was that I've come across history of King Mushweshwe. And King Mushweshwe is written about, his story starts when he was still at his mother's belly. Her mother, Khulu, while she was still pregnant of him. But when you look at the history of Queen Mantatisi, she's spoken about from when she's married off to the Batlokwa from the Basia people. Then I took it upon myself and I made an artistic research on her life and times, which I submitted for my master's degree at Wits. So the fascination with Kgoshi Mantatisi started in 2016 upon reading that book, The Realm of the Rain Queen. This is how I thought she would have looked like in the modern times. And what is great about being an artist is that you have an artistic freedom of depicting history the way you understand it. And what is important is that because no one has ever seen Queen Mantatisi, artists have artistic freedom of creating Queen Mantatisi the way they know how. So for my artistic research, I created this piece last year. But in this particular piece, at the time, I imagined her as a little girl. And part of the research that I've done, I've written very short stories, 10 short stories that seeks to really locate Queen Mantatisi in history, from when she was a little girl until when she gave the throne to her son, King Sikonyela. So, because she was from the Wasia and she got married off to the Batlokwa, I used textile or fabric to sort of merge the histories of the two kingdoms. Batlokwa, they are called Batlokwa because Tlokwe. Tlokwe is one of the wild animals that the research told me went extinct or distinct. You know, this English sometimes get away with us. So that animal was overhunted because of its fur. So then Batlokwa then became Tlokwe. Tlokwe. Ba'ana, their totem is this wild cat. So because it could be a leopard and a lion, I used the leopard motif or prints and merged them together to try to imagine this animal that we don't, this wild animal that we don't know how it looked, to tell a story that she grew up as Musia, the shwe blue fabric represents, or I use it as a metaphor to explain that she was from the Basotho people and she got married off to the Batlokwa. And I created this piece as an artistic impression of how she would look like today. And as I was working on the story, there is no mention of Queen Mantatisi's mother. And maybe I should explain how Queen Mantatisi became Queen Mantatisi. She was born Musanyana Munyalwi. Then her first child was Ntatisi, which is common in our cultures, that a mother's name will cease to exist when the mother gives birth to the first child. Then that first child, her name will then be prefixed with Ma and the name of that first child. That's how Queen Mantatisi became Mantatisi. But there was no make mention of her mother. And I'm always against the erasure of women's contributions to humanity. And I decided to create a portrait of what I imagined to have been Queen Mantatisi's mother, and I called her Mahosi Sichaba. And in those short stories, those who are interested in the dissertation that I submitted, I'm willing to share it with you so that you can also read those short stories to then elicit the kind of gap that I tried to patch in my artistic research. So I had imagined Queen Mantatisi as someone who was able to do chores that are thought to be done only by boys, such as milking a cow. But what fascinated me was also to look at or locate her in Dihoro, when her father was having a court case. I would locate her in that horo, that council, that court that deliberates on disputes. The intention was that the father was grooming her to become the leader she became for the Basotho. But there was a contestation when the husband, King Mukojo, died. The family of Mukojo, they didn't want her to become a leader. They said, yes, we acknowledge that Sikonyela, the apparent heir, still young, he's a minor. But you cannot become our leader. So they wanted Sehala Hala, who was the little brother of the husband, to take the throne, to be an interim. But Mantatisi fought and won to ascend the throne. So for me, she represents power. And it concerns me that most people, we don't know about her. So part of the work that I did for that exhibition, postgraduate exhibition, was to imagine some of the landscapes that she walked on, that she fought. She fought in few battles. Another one is called Ntwayadi Pitsana, or Battle of Pots, where they were smashing pots as they fight for good land. So she went past a place called Koboshiane, which was then in I think is in Lesotho, because this thing happened between Northern Free State and Lesotho. This is where the postgraduate exhibition happened. And I was telling this story as an imaginary grandson of Queen Mantatisi. That helped me to really respect her story and imagine her really guiding me through as I tell her story that was erased over 200 years ago. And the response to the show is part of the thesis, which is there, and those who are interested can just see how that exhibition went about. Lastly, I would like to share my 2-cent contribution to the promotion of Sepedi language. I have a blog that I write theater, book, and art exhibition reviews. And 2 months ago, I started translating that into Sepedi, publishing both English and Sepedi, or writing first in Sepedi and translating it into English. So this is my contribution as I want to also improve on my language of Sepedi. And the response was great. People, Sepedi speaking people, appreciate this kind of efforts. So this show was at the Market Theatre, and it's written by Bob Chabalala, called Congolose Commanding Commissars, which I think commanding the way it is written, and the commissars the way it is written, it's appropriation of English language and being written the way we pronounce it, or the way we think it should be butchered. And this is the English version of it. And if you want to read more of this, you could go to Samantole Arts Foundation, which is resplendent of the reviews that I write on exhibitions, books, theaters, and sometimes music. I would like to say, pula ya medupi e le nele, goba e le nele. Ka o rialo ke a leboga ge le kgonne go ntheeletša le nna ke gotše. Lastly, I would like to thank the organizers, or organizing committee of this August occasion, for inviting me and putting up a very wonderful masterpiece of event. I say to them, keep it up. Inviting practicing artists is important because their voices also matter. and that there are very few platforms for us to speak in South Africa. That's why even with art publications, they'll tell you that they don't have space. So this kind of spaces are very important. I thank you so much, and I hope to see you in an art gallery, art theater, and art library next time I see you. Thank you so much.
Awushini kambe. Molweni kambe. Are we tired? Can we stand up again? Okay, I know you won't like it. Thank you so much. I learned a lot of things. I was not aware that artists are also working very hard towards the direction in which we are. The fight to promote these African languages, because under normal circumstances, we think art is not part of us. We just get these arts which are being done to promote something else which is not about us. But here the art is just within the context, and I want to thank you so much for this. Maybe we can give him another round of applause. Because of our time, I won't entertain us asking anything or trying to want to find some more information from what he was giving. He is available, he's one of us. So during the break and everywhere you meet him, please, you have time to engage with him if you need some more things to understand. What I'm gonna do now, because of our time, Prof. Charlie, with due respect, I will want to ask you to come forward. There's a small ritual that can be done by you. With due respect, can we welcome him to come and perform that ritual, please? Just stand here. We are moving on. We are going to the closure, and what we are going to do now is simply announcements. Do we have some of the organizers, one of the organizers coming to make announcements so that I can officially, with the powers invested upon my shoulders, close this session?
Good morning, colleagues. Because we started late, there will be some little adjustment on our program. So going from here, we are going to grab our teas, and then we don't spend much of our time, and then at 11 o'clock, the sessions should start. So today we are having three parallel sessions. The first one will be at this hall, and then the second one is Lupata. The third one is Zimbas. But then we are moving Zimbas to Mamina, meaning that from 11 o'clock, all sessions are starting. So this is just a reminder, if there is no presenter at that allocated time, we should not shift. Let's wait for the next presenter's time to arrive so that we can have our program as it is on our printed programs. And then soon after we finish our three presentations, we come back here so that we can have our closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Hey, sorry. Now we are coming to the close of our time, of our session. I just want to read one thing relating to what we are doing. Last year in November, we had a conference of DLT, and a certain Professor Tukumbi Lumumba Kasongo said this: the fourth industrial revolution is coming to stay with us, but it will be very dangerous if we relegate the role of our own languages to be performed by the fourth industrial revolution, meaning we have a role with our languages to ensure that we make the balance between what fourth industrial revolution will be doing and what we will be doing ourselves. Allow me to call this session, with the powers that have been invested on my shoulders, a closure. Enjoy yourselves. Let's see each other again next time, if we don't see each other again right now, because some will be leaving, I know, like myself. Thank you so much.